Northwestern may not have gotten the win it was looking for on Saturday, but the offense showed up yet again.
You are Locked On Northwestern, your daily podcast on the Northwestern Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. This is Locked On Northwestern, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Carter Bird. Thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen for anything and everything Northwestern. You can find us wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. We are there. You can also find us on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern and find us. You're going to want to subscribe so you don't want to miss any episodes. Today, we're going to talk about that Northwestern offense and how they did in that Duke game on Saturday. Surprising numbers, to be honest, like when you given the slow start, because the opening drives didn't do a lot. I mean, first three drives ended in a punt, missed field goal, and a punt. Not a lot of points there, but you really got things rolling. That next drive, you go on to score a touchdown. Then you have a turnover on downs, field goal. Then few turnovers in there, but a couple touchdowns as well. It turned out to be a pretty good statistical day for this Northwestern offense, and that's where we're going to start today. We're going to start with the two standouts right off the bat. You had Ryan Hilinski at quarterback, put forth another very, very solid, very good performance, to be honest with you. He was 36 of 60 for 435 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 fumble, 60% completion percentage, and a QB rating of 128.6. I think you can safely say through 2 games, you have seen the best of Ryan Hilinski of his college career. He has been plenty good enough to win 2 games. He was great against Nebraska. He was good on Saturday. He had to put the ball in the air 60 times. That's when you do that, you're gonna see every now and then you're gonna see a fumble, and every now and then you're gonna see an interception. He had one of each in this one, which you hate to see. And I know when you listen to Ryan Hilinski talk after the game, he wants those moments back. He wants a couple throws back, but all in all, very, very, very strong game out of Ryan Hilinski. Fitz praised his pocket presence. He says that at times he is just outstanding out there, and he has a very strong grasp of what this offense is trying to do, and he brings a lot of confidence to the position, and he gives them a chance to win every time they go out there right now. And he had some great throws. He also had some he'd like to have back, but it probably plays out differently for his stat line. He probably has a better day in terms of not turning the ball over if that Northwestern team gets stops on defense early. Fitz talked about the first 15 plays. We'll talk about that tomorrow. And if Northwestern's offense can put points on the board in those first 3 drives, and they're not playing from a 21-0 hole. Next up, you have to talk about Evan Hull. Evan Hull has been phenomenal in 2 games, especially on Saturday. He had 17 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. He only had a 12-yard long. I think that may have been on the first play of the game. That was the one thing I was a little puzzled by, was I thought Northwestern set the tone first play of the game, running right up the gut, right at this Duke defense, ripped off a 12-yard run, and I just never felt like Northwestern very comfortably kept attacking the middle of that Duke defense. And I thought there was a lot of trying to attack the edge. I think that affected the run game. And Evan Hull talked about it. He said that Duke defense was very, very fast. They flew around. They had a lot of athletes on the field, and they made it very hard to go east-west to attack the edge. But He also said that they fit the run well. Their safeties were coming downhill. They made it tough to run the ball in general. But I do think behind that Northwestern offensive line, a little more traditional, right up the gut, between the tackles run game, you probably see better results in the run game and not 34 total carries for 76 yards. You probably see a little better out of Cam Porter than 11 for 13 and Andrew Clare 2 for 3. But Evan Hull 17 for 65 and a touchdown. And then he made his impact in the passing game. 14 receptions coming out of the backfield, a lot of screen passes, a lot of checkdowns, a lot of swing passes for 213 yards and a touchdown, average 15.2 yards per reception, 3.8 yards on the ground. As a team, Northwestern only ran the ball for 2.2 yards per rush, but in the air, Evan Hull led the way, 15.2 yards per reception, 17 targets in the game, had 167 yards after the catch. He was unbelievable. There's not a performance by a running back in the country that I can say it has been better than what Evan Hull has put forth through 2 games. I mean, he's put together 2 monster performances, had 119 yards on the ground against Nebraska and a touchdown, and also had 55 yards receiving. Evan Hull right now is averaging 200 yards from scrimmage in the air and on the ground per game. It needs to be talked about. It's not talked about enough. We're going to talk about it more later this week, but it's something that is unbelievable. You had Malik Washington make some plays, 7 receptions for 51 yards, saw 13 targets, couldn't quite get the ball there on 6 of them. And then you also had probably the breakout star in the receiving game out of these true pass catchers through these first couple games. Thomas Gordon, 5 receptions, 78 yards, couple super nice plays. Made a really nice play against Nebraska, but had his shoulder pop out. Well, he had 2 one-handed grabs in this one on his 7 targets. Phenomenal game out of him. I think he is showing you something, and he is going to continue to make plays. It's good to see Jensen Hooper-Price have an explosive play in the pass game, 1 catch for 25 yards. Then, of course, Donnie Navarro getting in there with another touchdown catch. That's 2 on the year, 4 receptions, 30 yards on 10 targets. See, Northwestern's having a little more trouble getting the receivers the ball. Bryce Kurtz, 4 targets, 2 catches. And then you had Jacob Gill, 3 targets, 1 catch. I mean, it's pretty 50-50 when you look at the amount of targets the receivers are getting as opposed to the amount of catches. Northwestern really made its hay by getting the ball to the running backs and getting the ball to Thomas Gordon, and those guys made plays. But I mean, this offense was good, and you just needed to not have to play so far from behind. That was kind of the story. In just a second here, we're gonna look at this offense so far, how it compares to last year, because it's the tale of two teams. I mean, it's not. I know there's a lot of guys returning from last year's team, but it's not comparable. So we're going to take a look at that here in just a second. But first, let me tell you about Upside. From cringing at the pump to getting an eye-popping check at your favorite restaurant, inflation is hitting us all where it hurts, and it really hurts. That's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With every purchase, I'm earning cash back thanks to Upside. You know, Upside's something that I've started to look into here, something that I really hadn't heard about until I started working here at Locked On, and it's just a great tool to continue to maximize your dollars. To get started, download the free Upside app, use promo code LOCKED, and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Next, claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. Check in at a business, pay as usual with a credit or debit card, and get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash with Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's probably why they have a 4.8 star rating on the App Store. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKED. All right, so let's look at this Northwestern offense this year. Let's look at how they have performed, because last year in 2021 the offense had 322.4 yards per game. They had 177.3 passing yards and 145.1 yards on the ground. Well, this year, through 2 games, you're running the ball very similarly, although you have one huge performance where you went for 214 yards and then one not so great performance where you ran for 76. You're averaging 145 yards per game right now. So basically a wash there. Here's where the difference is, though. Last season, you threw for 177.3 yards per game. This season, that number has ballooned to 374.5 yards per game. That's phenomenal. And that's the difference. You're starting to see good quarterback play. Something we didn't know Ryan Hilinski had in him last year. We didn't know he had it in his career. There were flashes, but that's all they were. They were flashes. Well, now they're starting to build a pattern here behind this offensive line. And he's starting to make plays. He understands the offense. First time having the offensive coordinator for 2 years in a row, and he's making it work. He looks comfortable. He's making plays. He's making difficult throws at times. And he's letting his guys make plays. Thomas Gordon, Evan Hull. Those two right now are the ones that stand out in this offense. The screen game was huge on Saturday. When you look at it, touchdowns to interceptions, last year, Northwestern's quarterbacks threw 13 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. So far this year, you have 2 touchdowns and no interceptions against Nebraska. You have 2 touchdowns, 1 interception against Duke. That's 4 touchdowns to 1 interception. If you get that ratio and this production in the passing game, I don't expect it to sustain at 374.5 because I expect the run game to get better. But if you consistently gain those yards and you look this much better in the pass game and you protect the football this much better, you're in a great spot. The offense is. It's different. It's different right now than it has been in the past. But your average last year you were 322.4 yards per game. This year, through 2 games, 519.5 yards. You went for 528 against Nebraska, 511 on Saturday. If this offense can put up those numbers, this team's going to be just fine. This team's just good. It's going to be just fine. And when you look at completion percentage last season, the Northwestern quarterbacks completed passes at a 57% clip. Well, against Nebraska, Ryan Hilinski completed passes at a 71.1% clip. That's strong, y'all. That's dang. I mean, if you have a quarterback throwing 70% completion percentage, he's having a game. I don't care how far he's throwing it down the field. And Ryan Hilinski, at times, he can push it down the field. He showed that in the first game where he went deep, and he got a deep ball or two. Well, in this one, he had 60% completion percentage. But when you average out his total throws, 64.2% completion percentage for the season. That's a 7% jump from last year through 2 games. I know you're going to run into some defenses that are better than what you've seen so far. That's fine. But if he can sit around 62, 63% for the season, that's a 5-6% jump from last season. If he protects the football the way that he has so far, for the most part, compared to last year, when you were having 1.9 interceptions and fumbles in the game. You've got half an interception per game so far, and 1.5 fumbles because you had Evan Hull put the ball on the ground on the last play. You had Hilinski put one on the ground. I don't expect that to continue. I think fumbles are this game with 2 fumbles was a little bit of an outlier. I doubt you see Evan Hull fumble diving into the end zone again this year, fighting through tackles. But this offense looks explosive. It looks explosive. And Fitz said that when talking about the explosive plays that Duke had. He said, well, we had a lot of explosive plays too. Our offense is pretty good too. But I cannot stress enough how much better, how much more balanced, how much more competitive this offense is this year. And if it continues, this Northwestern team will be in every game it plays. Every single one. Even Ohio State, I don't care. If they keep putting up these numbers, they're going to be in every game. And I can't wait to see, because I think they're going to get better. Because you're starting to have a little bit of movement in the receiving core. You're having a couple guys start to make a few more plays. Jensen Hooper-Price, you didn't really see him in the first game all that much. Well, he made a big one in this game. Jacob Gill's starting to get a few more targets. Bryce Kurtz is continuing to come back off that injury. Donnie Navarro has 2 touchdowns. You didn't really see Ray Nairo that much yesterday. Thomas Gordon's coming along. Made significant improvement from week 1 to week 2. I feel like this offense is going to come along. You're not going to have games where Cam Porter goes 11 for 13. It's just not going to happen. You're going to start getting better production out of the backup running backs behind Evan Hull and Cam Porter. I think this offense has room to grow. So when we're gonna look forward to what we want to see this offense do and improve on going forward. But first, know what your team is up against across the Big Ten with Locked On Big Ten. Everyday host Nate Dickinson and the local experts of Locked On take you across the Big Ten in 30 minutes. Make Locked On Big Ten your second listen. Locked On Big Ten. Now, with this offense, what do you want to see going forward? I want to see performances like that one against Nebraska. Well, one right off the bat, I want to see quicker starts because in both games, game 1 you got down by 11. I believe it was 11. It may have been 14. But you got down by 11 early. Game 2, you got down by 21. And I want to see the offense. I want to see what this offense can do when it strikes first, when it's playing with a lead. Because I think that's going to allow true balance. And you kind of had it in the first game. I mean, Hilinski threw for 314. You ran for 214 in the first game. That's pretty solid. But I think if you play with a lead, with the running backs you have at Northwestern, with the offensive line you have at Northwestern, you can kind of grind a team out on the ground. You can wear them out. And I want to see a little more running right at teams because I don't feel like Northwestern did it enough on Saturday. And the offensive players, Evan Hull, Ryan Hilinski, they credited Coach Bajakian for kind of opening up the playbook, getting creative, trusting his guys, and trusting them to go make plays. And Hilinski said that, hey, just like week 1, week 0 rather, he looked at Evan Hull in the huddle and he said, hey, it's me and you. We're out here leading the guys. We're going to go get a score. And at no point did they believe that they were going to lose that game. I mean, Hilinski said, even when he threw the pick, he walks to the sideline and Fitz looks him in the eye and says, they're going to kick a field goal. We're getting the ball back. We're going to score a touchdown and get the 2-point conversion, and we're going to be in this thing. And they almost did it. And if Evan Hull had just gotten in the end zone, I have a hard time believing that dude defense was going to stop Evan Hull on one more play when he's been racking up yardage up and down the field. He's getting, 3.8 yards per rush, nothing spectacular, but 15 yards per catch. I think Northwestern could have forced overtime. I still think Northwestern was the better team of the two. I thought Duke had a really, really good plan defensively. I thought they had a really good plan. They had a really good opening script, and we're going to talk about that on offense. But that Duke team used its speed to make it hard to go east-west, and you heard Evan Hall talk about it. But this Northwestern offense, I think there's room to improve. And Hilinski talked about it. He said, when we get in the red zone, we have to score touchdowns and not field goals. We can't take 4. We need 7. And I mean, you've seen Sage miss a couple field goals already. And I mean, the best thing the offense can do is just take the ball off his foot, basically. Take the ball off his foot, take it out of his hands, put the ball in the end zone. Every drive you can, try to go get a touchdown. And I think this team, after Nebraska, I mean, Hilinski, unbelievable, out of this world. This game, I mean, he was good too. And I think the sample size is growing. I think confidence is only going to continue to grow in this offense because they have a dude at quarterback right now. There's a lot of teams that would kill for Ryan Hilinski at quarterback right now. You look at Iowa. Spencer Petras might be the worst quarterback in the Power 5. You look at teams like Texas A&M. Haynes King had a tough day against Appalachian State. You look at Auburn. Auburn has a couple bad quarterbacks right now. I mean, heck, Penn State. If you were asking me, if I'm a just neutral coach, no affiliation to Northwestern or Penn State, of what I've seen from Sean Clifford and Ryan Hilinski, who do I want as my quarterback right now? I'll take Ryan Hilinski. I don't trust Sean Clifford. I think there are way more games this year where you're going to look at the quarterback battle and say Northwestern has the better quarterback. I think they did on Friday, or on Saturday, rather. I think they did on Saturday. They absolutely did in week 1. Ryan Hilinski was better than Casey Thompson. Casey Thompson's good. He continues to play well. But Ryan Hilinski has shown so far he is better than most of these quarterbacks that Northwestern's going to play. Maybe not C.J. Stroud, because C.J. Stroud, I think he's probably going to win the Heisman. Because I don't think it's going to be Bryce Young, because Bryce Young doesn't have an offensive line or receivers anymore. But I think that Northwestern, in a lot of matchups this year, will have the better offensive line, the better running back, and the better quarterback. And I think that combination will lead to a much better season than anybody was expecting. I mean, the over-under was 3.5 for this Northwestern team. They should be 2-0. They dug too deep of a hole. And when you dig a 21-0 hole, you don't have room for error. You don't have the ability to turn the ball over 3 times. They did. They came up 1 yard short. Well, what happens if they don't dig a hole? What happens if they jump on a team from go? Because that's going to happen at some point. I mean, if this team gets up on a team like Iowa, Iowa can't score. Iowa's offense is disgusting. I think you're better than more teams in this conference than people realize. And when conference play gets rolling again, it's not going to take place this week. But when conference play starts coming back, you're going to start to pick up on the fact that this Northwestern offense, it's better than we thought, because that was the joke. I mean, I listened to Split Zone Duo before the Northwestern Nebraska game, and they made the joke that it was a fireable offense for Scott Frost if the words Northwestern and offense and competent were used in the same sentence? Well, the offense is more than competent. The offense might be good, really good. 2 Power 5 opponents averaging 519.5 yards per game. They keep that up. It's going to be hard to stop the Wildcats this season. So, just my thoughts on the offense. I think it's going to continue. May not sustain 519 yards a game. But I like what I see because I think the offense is good. I just would like to see you start with lead, you jump on a team early, and not start from a big hole. That's going to do it for today. Come back later this week. We're going to talk about the defense. We're going to talk about Evan Hull because it's just stupid that Evan Hull has to get more shine for what he's done this year. We're gonna have an episode probably Thursday. It's just gonna be the Evan Hull show. We're just gonna make that the whole daggum thing, because he deserves it. He's that good. But yeah, come back later this week. We're gonna have an episode out, 3 more episodes out this week, I believe. And yeah, see you next time. Thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day for anything and everything Northwestern. Make sure you look for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. On YouTube, just search Locked On Northwestern, subscribe, leave a review. That helps. Comment. I'd love to interact with you. I'd love to talk about this team. I really believe that even though Northwestern lost the game, even though the offense turned the ball over 3 times, I think things are pointing up. I think there's room for the trajectory to continue upwards. There's room for growth. And I like this Northwestern team. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. See you all next time.